Trustee Guyer.
Here.
Trustee Spurling.
Here.
Trustee Lee.
Here.
Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
And Trustee Betzinger.
Here. All right, we're all here this evening. Good to see everybody. I should note at the top of the agenda here that we are conducting this meeting both in person and via Zoom pursuant to the governor's executive order. And then rolling right into public participation, item 3, two-minute opportunity for any resident or member of the community would have 3 ways to present their comments today, either by emailing Jeff, by coming to this meeting, or
By calling in.
calling. And did any of those things occur?
We did not receive any emails or phone calls.
Right. And is there anybody in the audience here this evening that would like to make public comment? Perfect. Go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. I'll read the items and entertain a motion for approval. Minutes of the village board meeting of September 14th. Executive session minutes, no date. C, accounts payable through September 24th, 2020. Proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And then the appointment of Dr. Neil Schlupp to the Montgomery Development Fund Committee to fulfill a vacancy through September 30th, 21.
Approve.
And Teresa, I should apologize that the proclamation is on consent. We should read that out loud. Would you like to read that?
I would love to read that.
Perfect.
I grab it. Since I'm not on mute, right?
No, you're good.
You're good.
Whereas since the awareness program began in 1985, mammography rates have more than doubled for women age 50 and older, and breast cancer deaths have declined. And whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month seeks to increase public knowledge about the importance of early detection and treatment of breast cancer. And whereas many women still do not utilize mammography at regular intervals, even though research indicates it is the best available method of detection. And whereas the National Cancer Institute estimates that in the United States, more than 230,000 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed this year and over 40,000 people will die. And whereas taking advantage of early detection methods such as mammography and clinical breast exams could help the breast cancer death rate drop by approximately 30%. And whereas the American Cancer Society and other organizations continue to search endlessly for a cure through vital research and to reduce the risks of breast cancer through community education. Matt, do you want me to read that part or do you want to read it? Therefore, Matthew T. Brawley, Village President of the Village of Montgomery, does hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Village of Montgomery and urges all women and their families to get the facts about breast cancer, support those courageously fighting breast cancer, and honor the lives lost to this devastating disease.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
You.
So moved. Second.
And second? And this is, just for clarity, this and the entire consent. And again, Teresa, I apologize for this not being for separate action. All right, go ahead, call the roll.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes. All right, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Under items for separate action this evening, item A is Resolution 2020-023, authorizing the release of the Blackberry Crossing West subdivision bond. Director Young?
Thank you, Mr. President. This item is a cleanup item for Blackberry Creek West Park that has now been turned over to the Fox Valley Park District after many years of establishing the turf at the park. It has now been established and accepted by the Park District. So that means there is the appropriate action request to release the bond. of $107,878.44 that has been on file for the subdivision completion. All work has been completed, and the park has been turned over to the Park District. So it's appropriate for the release of the bond at this time.
All right, and who is the developer? It doesn't state.
This is Ryan Holmes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, this is, yes, it is Ryan Holmes.
Ryan.
Apologize,
Okay.
yes.
And the Park District has accepted the park? It's all
Yes.
done. All right. Any
So moved.
questions? There you go.
Second?
Okay.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yeah.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
And Trustee Lee.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Thank
That
you.
carries. Thanks, Rich. Okay, item B this evening is a replacement of 2 police vehicles. Chief Smith?
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you tonight, you have a request for 2 replacement vehicles fiscal year '21 with the attached bids. This is through the VERF and is budgeted.
Perfect. Any questions?
I'd asked you this question earlier, and I'll ask it just for public knowledge. Since it says Police Interceptor Utility, I'm assuming they're the Explorer
Yes, sir.
versions? Okay. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, motion?
Second.
Motion
So
by,
moved.
there you go. And then second by Guyer? Go ahead.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
All right, that carries 6-0. Thanks, Chief. All right, moving on. Item C this evening is purchase of a Ford F-550 truck. With what is that word?
Chipper truck? Or forestry body?
Yeah, Knapheide,
Oh, I'm sorry.
forestry body. I can read the other words.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. President. So before the board tonight is the purchase of a 2021 model F-550 Ford cabin chassis that'll be upfitted with a Knapheide forestry body. This vehicle will be purchased through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative Program. The purchase will come from Sutton Ford, and the upfitting will be conducted by Bunnell Industries. Total amount for this vehicle is $77,152. Total budgeted was $83,250. So this vehicle is coming in at $6,098 under the budgeted amount. If there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain those at this time.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I may. Can you describe for the people potentially listening what a forestry body is?
So a forestry body allows our department to be able to conduct our, basically conduct our forestry operations throughout the village, utilizing this truck that allows us to chip into the back of the truck. So basically a large cavity with a cap on top that allows us to put the debris in to one unit, but also has tool space throughout the vehicle, toolboxes that allow for us to carry the proper equipment to do that type of work. So it's a key piece of equipment that we currently don't have. We're utilizing a dump truck body now, but we're limited on the amount of tools that we can carry on at one time, so which constitutes in a lot of trips back and forth to make sure, and/or a secondary vehicle to follow to be able to carry the tools. So
This truck body will allow long pole pruners and that sort of thing?
Correct.
And storage?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And will you plow with this at all, or no?
No, this truck will not have a plow on it. The reason for that is that the bulk of our right-of-way pruning is conducted throughout the winter months, so it's a bit of an obstacle for us to upfit the truck with the plow and then take the plow off and utilize it. Besides the fact of the nature of this vehicle makes it a little bit more difficult for plowing. So we have other vehicles that we have at our disposal for that.
All right. Sounds good.
I'll make a
Will you
motion
just
to approve.
confirm,
Hold on,
I'm
please.
looking at the proposal now. You said the out be done by Sutton Ford, is that correct?
Sutton Fort is where the cabin chassis will be purchased from. Bunnell Industries will do the upfitting or building of the truck.
Where are they located?
They're in Dixon, Illinois.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I
I'll
have
make a
one,
motion.
one question for Director Wolf. Will the vehicle be delivered directly to Benel, or the invoice, I believe, said delivery to, are we driving the truck to Dixon? Are they delivering it directly to Dixon?
No, they'll be delivering it directly to Dixon. That may be an error if it does say that on the cover sheet. This is the, Bunnell Industries also utilizes the Suburban joint purchasing cooperative as well. So the whole program is set through them, which allows us to use Sutton Ford and Bunnell in the same cooperative.
Great, thank you.
Will this vehicle be available for use this winter?
We're hoping, unfortunately, until we get our PO into Sutton, they can't give us an estimated timeframe. So it's really hard to tell at this point. So hopefully after tomorrow, we'll be able to get some type of timeline on when the vehicle will be able to receive.
Okay, thank you.
Director Wolf, I am assuming this is part of the vehicle replacement plan that not replacement, I know we're not replacing this one, but that whole vehicle plan that we've had set up for several years.
Correct. This will be encompassed into the VERF. This is a new vehicle, so yes, you're correct. It's not a replacement, but it will be accounted for in the VERF, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to approve it.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Anybody here or on Zoom have any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, go ahead, call the roll.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
That carries 6-0. Thank you. All right, item D this evening is ordinance 1891, authorizing and supporting the continued rebate of residential property taxes, first reading.
Yes, the initial ordinance that was adopted to implement this program has expired. If you'll recall, during the IRP discussions with the road program update, we did discuss this, and the board, unanimously said they wanted to continue this program, and at that time also said to keep it, the dollar amount where it is due to the uncertain circumstances of our revenue. So that is what is reflected in this ordinance currently. It will run for 5 years, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
No
We had
motion,
A few questions before
no
we go.
motion because it's first read? Is
There
it
you go.
correct? Okay.
Thanks for correcting me preemptively, because I probably would have called the roll on that.
I
Don't
was
do
ready
that.
to, I was ready to vote. So.
So I do have a few questions. It says in here we don't want to bind any future boards, but it's a 5-year agreement. Why wouldn't we just do it year to year instead of doing it for 5 years?
We can. The first one was a 5-year agreement, so we just replicated that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this at all. Actually, I would like to expand it myself. The way we do it is, I just think is a little problematic, and we spend a lot of staff time, and we spend postage. I know we've talked about this before. I would like to somehow tie this back so that we can perhaps give credit somehow with the garbage. Years ago, and I'm sure Matt probably remembers this, we didn't pay for garbage in Montgomery. It was just part of the taxes you paid, and then we phased in where residents, I think it was 25, then 50, then 75, then 100%. We spent about $5,000 in costs for staff to process these, for people to send them in, process them, check them out. A little over $1,000, $1,300 for postage. We've averaged about 2,500 people that have requested, so it's been an average about 120, or about $112,000. I know if we took that money and swung it over to garbage credits, for everybody, it would only relate to $20 a year in garbage credits, but I would like to see that, increased. If we did the $45 to everybody on garbage credits, we could take that money that we spend on staff time and on postage and checks and everything else and people's time and do it through the, water billing, just by having them pay. And I think it relates to about a 20/80, so the village would be paying 20% of the garbage and the residents would be paying 80%. It's just something I would kind of like everybody to consider moving forward, and that's why I asked if we could do it a year, instead of doing a 5-year. I think there's a better way of doing this and putting more money in people's pockets. I like the.
Jeff, I can't understand one word that Dan said.
Oh, you
I
can't hear me at
know
all?
it's him talking, but I cannot understand anything he said.
I'm sitting next to him and I can't. No, I'm kidding.
I can hear it feeding back, I can hear it echoing, so
Yeah.
I know I'm coming over.
Do you have yours on?
I do, yeah.
Even if you adopt the 5-year now, that doesn't stop you from changing it a year down the road, 2 years down the road. I mean, you can always pass a new ordinance that supersedes this one, so.
Okay.
So that doesn't keep you from doing anything down the road.
Okay, yeah, if we could, and I know things are kind of up in the air now, and, we can talk about this at budget time also, is, I know we've not done an increase on the levy with the CPI, but if we ever did, we could refund that money back to people for, for the garbage. Because I think I know we probably pay, what, about 1.2 million?
Talk more into that. Can you mute?
Jeff, mute yours.
We're getting
Is
a
it
lot
Jeff?
of feedback. Yeah, pull your microphone up closer.
Yeah, I can hear it feeding back, yeah. I don't know.
Hello.
So, yeah, so I don't know, I know we pay about 1.2
Oh, Jeff
million a
is
year
muted.
in garbage.
Oh.
Did that do it?
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now you can hear.
Sorry, let me, try a different mic. How about that? Is that better? Teresa, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not getting the feedback
Yes.
now, so it must be this mic, but, so anyway, like I said, I'm not opposed to this, I think it's a good program, and, I just think that there would be could be a better way of doing it, and, making it available to everybody. There is one thing I did notice in here too, is, under, section 1, paragraph 2, under A, it says a rebate shall be offered by a notice on the village website where residents may find out the process for obtaining said rebate. Actually, I think that should read residential property owners, because that's what it says throughout the whole ordinance, is that's rebated to residential property tax owners. So we may want to, you may want to change that.
Can I ask a question related to Dan's suggestion with the water bill? Does the water bill go to the property owner, or does it go to the residents? So in the case of rental properties, the money would be rebating to the residents as opposed to the property owner?
It goes to both. I mean, it depends on the situation there. I mean, they both get a copy of it, I think, and then
Okay.
they determine who's paying it.
Because the intention is a property tax rebate,
Yes.
right? So if
It's
it went
supposed
to
to go to
the
the property
rental,
owner.
if it went to the renter in their water bill, it could not be going to the owner of the property. Okay, just wanted to clarify and ask. Thanks.
So just so that I'm clear, are you implying that you would like that to go to every resident of Montgomery?
Yeah, and actually, when, I wasn't on the board when this was implemented.
Right.
But if I recall, it was implemented because the 1% sales tax was put in place. And this was to refund people some money based on having to pay that additional tax, and it was done through the property tax. And the problem I can see with that is like Doug just said, so if you have a renter in a property, and you have the person who owns a property, you know, doesn't live in the village of Montgomery or even lives in another state, he's getting the money refunded to him, and he's not paying the additional sales tax in Montgomery. But the resident who lives in the house
But that
is.
person is most likely paying the actual property tax. That's not something that typically is passed on to a renter. So they are paying the property tax. And I would say, go back to our original intent, and it was to provide some type of relief to the people who are paying property taxes.
Right, well, it's all a function of the rent, because, I mean, if you know, you're paying the rent, so the renter is actually paying the property taxes, because their rent is paying the property taxes, the insurance, to live in the house. So that tenant is actually paying the property taxes. The owner's writing the check, but they're paying the taxes through their rent.
Yeah, and
And it depends. Yes, sure, it could happen that way. I know in my neighborhood, there's a lot of people who have purchased homes and they have set up a family member in there. So I can guarantee you the family member isn't paying that. But I mean, I'm just going back to our original intent as one of the board members who was part of putting that together. And our intent was to provide some relief to the to the taxpayers who pay property taxes.
I agree with Teresa.
yeah, and so the point that I was gonna make, and it's a point well taken, the rebate program is imperfect, right? It's the agreement we tried to strike between, you know, the village and voters was that if you vote to increase this, we're gonna do our roads, and whatever we have left over, we're gonna rebate to your property taxes. So that was our way of saying, if you live here, if you pay the property taxes, you're gonna be paying this tax, but we're also going to rebate. It's not perfect. I brought it up when we were talking about the roads program, and we set the funding for this, essentially for the next 5 years. Is it a five-year road program or 5? So this kind of mimics that, and I see value there. Also, I think when we first passed this, the 5 years was, I think, as long as we were comfortable. And I actually thought it was set to auto renew, but there must be some reason why it didn't. But the length of that was also used in our conversations with residents to say, this isn't like a one-year thing and then we're gonna cut it off and move on our way. This is a kind of forever thing, at least 5 years and beyond. So we could vote next year to take it away if the economy tanks and whatnot, and we don't have the funds to do what we need to do. But I do like the 5 years. I've been a proponent of streamlining that process a little bit, because it does take a decent amount of staff time. There is some expense to it, but short of opting in the entire community, this is the best way that we could come up with so that the property taxpayer is getting this rebate. And I know that there's a lot of folks in town that don't want the rebate, and so we'd be rebating to people that frankly don't want it. So I don't disagree with your points. I think it was a process to put it together. And again, it's not perfect, but I know that it's popular and the residents like it, and we're getting our roads paved, so it kind of worked out.
Right.
Your comment.
And the other thing I would add, Matt, is somebody who is out there educating the voters, I would be very uncomfortable changing that deal we made with the taxpayers. I would not want to make any changes based on what I shared with them and said, this is what we're doing. And they said, yes, they voted for it because this is what we said we were going to do. So I personally am not interested in making any changes to it.
There's a number of folks that I know that opt out. They're aware of it, they get it, they appreciate it, but they said the village could use the extra $45 versus them putting it into their budget and buying more pizza. And the other part of that is, it's a piece of paper you fill out. You can go to the website and fill it out, and it's $45. To dilute that down and give 20 to everybody is counterproductive to what we discussed doing on the initial thing. And again, like Teresa said, I stood in front of people and lobbied for this as a resident, and we kind of sold everybody on what we put together, and it wasn't an easy process. Like you said, it's an imperfect process. And we could look at probably some ways to streamline some of the internal processes. But as far as opening it up and just auto rebating to everyone, I wouldn't support that either.
I'm not willing to do anything where we're diluting the amount of money that we're giving to the residents.
Right.
Right now, they've come to, it's a $45, and everyone knows that I'm pushing to make that greater every year, and I understand this year and COVID and the financial implications, but I'm not willing to dilute that $45.
Right, and I'm not suggesting that we dilute it. That was just an example of what we're paying out now would be $20 a person for everybody. Now, I would say, hold it at the 45 and give it to everybody. I don't want to dilute it either. And like I said, I would like to expand it. I would like somehow to figure out how we could go back and give people some relief on garbage. It's just a way to reduce people's burden.
Right, I get it, but it's not garbage relief. Years ago, the village made that choice, and I know it's all funds that they're paying to the village, either tax or garbage, but at any rate, I know last year we had a bigger push to try and increase the take rate, and I don't think it was much higher. So I would challenge the board to try and get that increase this year and have as many people as we can fill out a sheet of paper that basically just says that I want the rebate, I paid the taxes, and drop it off at Village Hall.
Right, you can do it online too. You don't have to do the paper now. You can actually, I shared actually posted it today on the village website, and I shared it with a lot of Facebook groups. You can actually click on the link, go in, fill out the form on the website, and you don't have to fill out the piece of paper. So it's streamlined in that regard, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I would like to.
I'm sorry, Matt, just on to, to kind of make sure Dan is up to speed on this, and again, no offense intended with that, saying getting up to speed. When we switched our scavenger service, we ended up saving the each residence was going to have a significant savings because DC Trash was offering so much more. So I get where you're trying to offer some relief in some method. We were lucky to even do that with our garbage contract too, so.
Right, no, I agree. And actually, you and I talked about that before it switched. And, that was one of the better moves, switching to a different trash hauler, because it reduced costs and it increased service. And that's a win-win in any book, so, I get it. But again, like I said, I don't have any problem whatsoever with the program. I'm just looking at ways to streamline it and put more money back into residents' pockets. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
Nope.
Let's make that,
No?
no?
First reading.
Oh, it's first reading.
Can we make that edit? I think it's 2A.
Yep.
To state residential
I
property.
made that note.
All right.
With that change, is the board comfortable putting this on consent at the next meeting?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And so you guys say any objection? All right.
I will say, I like you, I thought it was set to auto-renew, but I reviewed it and it did not.
Right, so this one won't either,
No.
right? In 5 years, we'll do the same thing.
Yes.
All right.
If memory serves, we talked about auto-renewing, but because we tied it to the roads program, as far as
Yeah.
the dollars and things, we chose to make it 5 years so that it coincided with the roads program.
Didn't auto-renew, but the board that adopted that said they strongly encourage future boards to continue the program.
Exactly. And that was part of the not binding the future boards, was that it was going to have a sunset period and it would have to be renewed.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
thanks. All right, moving on to item E this evening is a PSA with EEI for design and construction engineering for well 14 rehab. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So before you is the item for PSA with Engineering Enterprises. This would be for, obviously, the rehab of our Well 14 facility that is housed in the Foxmore subdivision that services our west pressure zone, that services the village's water distribution system. The reason we're moving forward with this particular well is we have seen some pumpage levels dropping to the point where we feel that we need to take action. We will be more than likely utilizing our service agreement with Lane Christensen for the work to be performed, but this is for the PSA for EEI. You see in your packet the anticipated schedule, so we are looking to try to move this project forward. We like to try to do, structure most of our rehabilitations during the winter months when our water usage or water demand is at its minimum. So that is the reason we are looking to move forward tonight. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for
I have
Mark?
a question for you. Mark?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. If somebody else has a question, please go ahead.
It's not that loud, go ahead, it's fine.
Just to clarify, for some reason, it seems like this is a well that we've had some issues with, or is it a different one? Am I mixing it up?
So it's a different one. The previous well that we rehabilitated was well 15. Well 15 does pump and is treated at the Fairfield Treatment Center, where our well 14 is actually housed as well. So they're definitely easily confused, but two different wells.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes?
Trustee Lee.
yes,
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes, excuse
Trustee
me.
Marisak.
Yes.
And Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
All right, that carries 6-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to the highlight of the year, the audit presentation. So Director Van Voren, go ahead.
Thank you, President Briley. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Jen Martinson, who is a principal with Lauterbach and Ammon. If there's any questions of me or Jen, we can answer those at a later time.
All right, thank you.
So I'll sit here. Good evening. As Justin mentioned, I'm Jen Martinson with Lauterbach and Ammon. I do want to start by thanking Justin for all of his hard work during the audit. I know 2020 has brought plenty of unique challenges for everybody, and the audit was another one of those unique challenges, but everything went as smoothly as it has gone in years past, so thank you for all of your hard work. As you all know, an audit is required to be completed within 6 months of the village's fiscal year end. And really the goal of that audit, oh no, did I do that? So sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I knocked the projector off. Where was I? The purpose of the audit really is for us to be able to provide an opinion on the financial statements that are presented this evening. So we have done that. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean audit opinion. It's really the highest opinion that we can issue. And that just means that the financial statements that are presented this evening fairly represent the financial position of the village. So that audit in front of you, I'm assuming you all have it in front of you. I guess I should have asked that first. Perfect. There's going to be 3 sections within that audit report. Your introductory section, your financial section, and your statistical section. So I'll just briefly go through each of those sections and what you can find there. In your introductory section, you'll have your transmittal letter, which is written in management's words. It is a non-financial introduction to the Village of Montgomery, so really interesting information on upcoming initiatives and other things like that, and again, non-financial. Also in the introductory section is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. So the village did receive that award for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2019, and we do anticipate the village will again receive that award for fiscal year 2020 as well. So congratulations, it's a very prestigious award in terms of the accuracy and transparency of the report. From there is your financial section, so that's where you'll find the opinion that I mentioned, that unmodified opinion in the independent auditor's report, as well as the MD&A, which is management's discussion and analysis. So that's really a good place to start. It's a narrative summary of all the financial information, so really easy to follow and understand some of those changes from last year to this year, some financial highlights, information on major revenues and expenditures. So really good place to start to fully understand that information. I will point out a few of those highlights. Specifically, this is page 35 and 36. So this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, or what you're used to seeing is really an income statement. So overall for the governmental funds, there was a surplus in fund balance of $511,000 for the year. Specifically, the general fund did also have a surplus of $177,000 with ending fund balance of $4.9 million, of which approximately $4.5 million is unassigned. Moving forward to page 40, you'll see similar information for your water and refuse funds. So overall, there was a slight decrease in net position for the water and refuse funds with ending net position of $20 million, which I do want to point out, again, that net position does include your capital assets and your long-term debt for those funds. Moving forward, I have a handful of pages that are notes to financial statements. This will include additional information on the village's financials. You'll have your long-term debt summary there, information on your pensions, as well as your capital assets. A few more pages I do want to point out. Starting on page 99 is really where you'll get into the information on your budget versus actual schedules. So you'll be able to compare those changes there. And in conjunction with that, I did want to mention we had more detailed information on any funds that were over budget in the management letter comment for the board. That final section I mentioned is your statistical section, which starts on page 162. Most of you look familiar. I think I've told you this before, that I find this section very interesting. It's going to have 10 years of trend information for multiple categories of information for the village. So you'll have 10 years of information of net position, of fund balances, major revenues, expenses, property taxes, and other things like that. Again, all 10 years of trend information in one place. So really nice to have all those pages kind of together. Additionally, I would be required to communicate with the board if we had any difficulties during the audit. I'm happy to say that there were none. As I did mention, there was the one management letter comment this year related to those over budget amounts, just as our required communication to the board. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question, if I may, and I don't know if this is for you or for Justin. When we go back to page, I think you had mentioned pages 35, 36, 37, you had mentioned some positive balances remaining in some of those funds. My question is, during this pandemic, we've provided some outflows of capital for water bills and those sorts of things. Were those outflows of capital taken out of that year's budget that we're going over now, or are they out of this year?
Those would show on page 35, the general fund, where it shows the net change in fund balance of 177. That would have been higher by about $150,000. That's where we took it out of.
Okay, so we were able to do these and help our residents and still have excess reserves. So, okay, that's what I wanted to point out, so thank you.
Yep.
You will also see in the MD&A that Justin put together, there's information that is reviewing, for example, your unassigned fund balance in the general fund and what percentage of annual expenditures that is, which was about 37%, which is very healthy. We do typically expect to see between 25 and 50. So.
Sorry. Perfect. Any questions from anybody here or on Zoom? I'm assuming this was much more painful during the economic crisis when you were getting a presentation on the budget and the fund balance was, you know, whatever, what was it down to at its minimum at one point?
Fund balance was down about 11% at one point.
That's stressful. So, all right, well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, with that, we'll move on to new or unfinished. Anything?
Hi, Matt. I have
Oh,
stuff.
I thought you were waving goodbye. I almost ended the meeting.
I love how we all look at Teresa when it's new and unfinished.
All right, go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up. So Rotary sponsored the cleanup site for Friends of the Fox to clean up the Fox River. We had a very nice turnout, about 60 people. I don't have a count on the bags. I know Rich Young is there. He may have a count on our bags. We also have 2 more community events coming up in October. One is the Disabilities Awareness Panel, and the second one is the superhero or superpowers workshop for kindergartners and first graders. So please look for Rotary to find out more information about those.
There were about 35 large orange bags that were deposited for pickup, 2 TVs, a bench seat from a minivan, and a feather advertisement flag that were hauled out of the banks in the periphery of the river. So,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your hard work. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks, Rich.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I got one thing naturally, that the unfinished business, the Bears finally found a quarterback in Foles, but the Green Bay Packers are still winning, but now they're both 3-0, so I do feel that maybe it will be a good game this year. That's the unfinished business.
All right, thanks for your optimism. Appreciate it. All right, with that, you can read future meetings. Our next village board meeting will be on Monday, October 12th in this room. With that, we do not have executive session. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger. Trustee Betzinger.
Good job.
Oh, yeah.
Trustee
Good job,
Gallagher.
Teresa.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Trustee Spurning's dog too, yes.
All right. I think we're adjourned. Thank you.